Welcome to the first football fill-in episode of the brand new Premier League football season. Before we get into that though, we have got some exciting news for you because the Fozcast Live is coming to Wrexham. It's going to be at the William Aston Hall on Sunday, the 22nd of September, and we're going to be joined by some very special guests. You can get your tickets from www.williamastonwrexham.com/event/Ben-Foster. We'll stick a link in the description down below. The tickets are now live and I cannot wait to see you all there. The Cycling GK Super League is back on FPL. If you want to join the league, the code is CUNZ90. Yes, you heard me say that right. It's CUNZ90. It's on screen now. Click it. It's a massive, massive league. We're going to try and figure out, I don't know how we're going to do this, but whoever wins, we're going to try and get prizes to you. I don't know how we're going to get the communication, but we're going to sort it. Join now. We've got to start straight away. Premier League predictions.
Premier League predictions from last season.
We've got last season's here, so right here. Unfortunately, Robbo, you didn't do them last
involved in it, was I?
But you can be, he could be Watto and just say big in every sentence.
Yeah, you can, yeah. Big in that.
Watto's still sunning himself, isn't he? So last season, Mark's predictions, we'll pop it on the screen, were City, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool.
I'm happy with that.
Which is the best out of the four of you. Watto was City, Arsenal, Man U, Chelsea. Ben was City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man U.
Everybody went City, Arsenal at least.
And Man United.
Who
we all put Man United.
No, Ben, you put Man U fourth.
Where did Man United finish?
Eighth.
I put Man United in the top four, didn't I?
Yes, you
did. I'm the only one who got 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4. So Mark wins that one. Bottom 3 was Sheffield. Everyone got 2. Golden Boot, everyone got Haaland. And then Dark Horse, Mark and Ben went for Villa.
Yep.
And Watto went for Chelsea to get top 4.
Can we also say, though, that Mark did predict that Burnley would go mid-table?
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. I'm always, underdog myself, so I always like to shout for the underdog.
Just on that, right, I want to ask a question. So there's clips come out this week, documentary of Vincent Kompany.
Cool, yeah.
In training, absolutely going at a player, really shouting and bawling. And I've heard mixed opinions on this. Robbo, is this just normal? Or is this, it's 2024 and have we all gone a little bit soft?
I think stuff's always going to come out now. That's the problem with social media. Everyone wants to see what's going on behind closed doors. Everyone wants to know what's happening. Why is Vincent Kompany all of a sudden left and gone to Bayern Munich with the job that he's done at Burnley? Them questions would be asked. I think there's going to be times where the camera is rolling, and as a coach, because of the intensity of the Premier League and how well you want to do, not only as a manager, but for your team to try and stay in the league, they were struggling. Stuff's going to get picked up and people are going to want to try and get it out there just for their own benefit of going, it's not as pretty as what it looked with Vincent Kompany.
I think this bit was on the documentary, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was on the actual Burnley
So the thing is, for me then, if you're agreed, then you're signed up to that documentary, then that stuff's going to come out.
That's just going to come out.
Yes,
Is
it's
that
going to come
normal
out.
behaviour
I love
in
it.
football?
No, I loved it. Honestly, I think they recorded him swearing something like 25 times or something in this one clip, which is about a minute long. But if you actually listen to what he's saying, I think Vinny Kompany as a player is the sort of guy who was so professional and he looked after himself properly and he could get himself ready for games and he could get himself through training and everything else, that when people fall below that expectation, especially when he's a manager as well, mate, he has got no bones about pulling them up on it. So what basically he was saying to the guy was, your body language has been shit all day. Your work rate, you're this, you're moaning. That's all you're doing. You're not doing what I want you to do on the training pitch. You're just moaning.
What do you make of that, Mark?
I think it's fine. Man United have been shit for years, and I'd love to see a manager absolutely tear a player apart.
Totally agree.
Because I think as a fan, you pay your money, you watch the match, you give up your time to watch the team, and people aren't giving it in training, then I think it's fair game.
I think a few people picked up in the player he's talking to, a few people picked up on it in the comments on Instagram where I saw the clip, and I think the player had said, I haven't been moaning today.
Yeah.
And I think that was the comment.
He had been moaning today, and his body language was awful as well. You see it, don't you? You see it all the time. Body language on players, right? Even when you watch games on a Saturday afternoon, Mark, right? you watch body language of players and you just think, oh, you can tell you're either a div or you're lazy or you're you know those arm swingers, the ones who like to just blame everybody else and deflect
or don't track back.
Or don't track, all of that kind of stuff. And no, I love the way that Vinny Kompany did that. I did. And I think if you put him into a bigger team, a Bayern Munich, for example, and you demand that of players who might be a little bit more professional anyway because they're at the top of their game, I think that's a good fit. I really do think it's a good fit, him and Bayern Munich.
Yeah, okay, no, fair enough.
He's also had a clip out, Anderlecht, there as well. Then he had one come out in the change room. So it's, for him, that's the norm for him.
Yeah, it's a style, isn't it? Because
it's his winning mentality as well. Like Ben said there, he's won things that matter. He's designed his body over the years to be a winner. And when you're at a team like Burnley, and sometimes you're having to manage players, their concentration levels are not the best, you got to keep on top of them. You have to keep on top of them. So if they're getting things wrong in the game, and he's constantly reminding that person, unfortunately for that person, it seemed to be he was the one that he was having to go at.
Yeah, and he's not going to be balling all day, every day, is
not all the day.
In order to be successful, you've got to be flexible. So I'm sure that when someone needs to be told, he'll tell them in that style. But also, you've seen other clips of him more methodical because you hear everything about Vincent Kompany and how tactically aware and how good he is. So it's just about flexibility and style, isn't it?
All right, should we finish talking about Vincent Kompany and actually do some predictions then for this season?
Yeah, predictions for this season. So we're going to obviously go into each team.
Yeah.
But I want to hear who your champion is going to be, Ben.
Man City.
Mark?
Sorry.
Oh, you gotta love it.
Just messaging Rasmus. No, I'm not.
Mark?
Oh, it's so boring. Man City.
Robbo?
Arsenal.
Oh, do you think
I'm
so?
going to throw it out there, yeah.
I need to know why.
Just because of these problems behind the scenes with the breaches of stuff.
Oh, that could be a good.
Do you think it's going to
I
bite
think
them in
this
the
will
ass?
affect Guardiola. I think it'll affect some of the players. Yeah, I think this could be a little bit of a stumbling block for them.
Okay.
If they get found guilty, they won't win the league.
But they're
Because
going to
if
get
they
points.
found
found
in
guilty, they're
January,
getting
or get
relegated.
told, they won't be allowed to win the league if they get found guilty anyway. So it could be a good guess.
But I just think, for me, from the performances that Arsenal put in last year, obviously it took its toll towards the end of the season with how strong Man City grew with the players coming back like Haaland, like De Bruyne. I just think Arsenal this year, for them, it's Arteta will just have it.
They didn't fade, though. Arsenal didn't fade.
No, just Man City.
Man City won it, didn't they?
Actually, do you know what? The only thing I would say about that is, as Man City as well, is there's been a couple real big sort of transfer bids for some of their big players. So De Bruyne and Ederson as well have been linked with massive Saudi moves. And I'm not saying on a professional level, it's not the ideal, but on a monetary level, when you're being offered 300, 400, 500, 600 grand a week, that makes your head turn a little bit. It does. It makes your head turn a little bit, and it might make them just take their eye off the ball a little bit as well. I'd hope not, because they're unbelievable players, and I'm glad that they didn't go either, because I want to see De Bruyne in the Premier League, and I love Ederson. He's my favourite goalkeeper. I want to see them, but I think just that little bit of unsettlement might knock them a little bit. Not only that as well, if you saw the team that they had to put out against Manchester United in the Community Shield last week, a lot of those Man City players aren't up to speed yet. They're not up and running. And it's going to take them a good month or so to get cooking. They've got a tough game, first game of the season as well with Chelsea. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Do you not think that's a doddle? That
45 players to pick from there, Chelsea.
So Mark, who's going to be in your top four then?
I think Man City win the league, Arsenal second, Liverpool third, Manchester United fourth. But I do quite think Newcastle could be a dark horse this season with no European football. Yeah, I think Newcastle, as long as Eddie Howe stays, I think they had a lot of injuries last season, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on Newcastle. But I think United fourth.
Fozzie, top four?
It's well hard. It's so well hard. Liverpool losing Klopp is massive. It's so hard to just replace somebody like that. People think that it's the squad that does it, but that guy, the manager, Jurgen Klopp specifically, pushes that team to be where they are, who they are, basically. I think it's the top two probably picks itself, Man City, Arsenal, and then it's out of a few others. I don't think Man United are going to get top four. I don't think they will. I just think it's just too much in and outs and too much sort of disruption, really. Obviously, Kobe Mainoo did really, really well in the Euros, so he's going to be a massive part for them this season. Garnacho did well as well for the Copa America. I'm going to go for a sneaky Tottenham in the top three. And I'm going to go for Liverpool fourth.
Okay, and Robbo.
Yeah, I'm going to, the same as Ben, but I'm going to go Man United top 4, yeah. I think Man United have a right good go this year. So I'll go Man City, Arsenal, Man City, Tottenham. What did I just say? Man United.
Man United 4.
Yeah. I think they're going to sneak it.
I think Man United are going to get top 3 this season. And the reason is I think there's other teams that have had a bit too much going on. So I think Chelsea are a little bit all over the place.
We're going to talk about Chelsea in a minute anyway. Right?
Yeah, but there's a lot of transitions.
Chelsea are just like, I don't know how to describe them. It's constantly...
Basket case?
There's something going on with Chelsea. Every single day, something else happens to Chelsea. And it's. I want to talk about let's talk about Man United.
Let's go into Man United.
I want to talk about De Ligt and, is it Mazraoui?
Yeah.
What do you think of them signings? What do you make of them signings?
I don't really understand it, really. I really like De Ligt, but if you'd said to me in March, he wouldn't have been on the list of players. So De Ligt is a player that Ineos have identified under this new structure that they've brought in. Obviously, Ten Hag, when Ineos say, do you want De Ligt, is like, it's Christmas Day because he loves De Ligt, he had him. So I think the fan base has been convinced by Ineos going, this is the player we want to get. But then you look in the media, and even some ex-United players are going, I don't know about this, don't know about that. And I'm like, I heard Souness saying he's lightweight. And I've heard, other people saying that he got dropped for Eric Dyer, which he didn't. He didn't get dropped for Eric Dyer. They played together a lot of the games. So it reminds me of Martinez a couple of years ago, where the misinformed media who don't watch football beyond the front of their nose don't really know what De Ligt is. I mean, he left Juventus for 70 million. He did well at Juventus. He did well at Bayern in the first year. He was brilliant at Ajax. He's still just turned 25. I think for £42 million, it's an incredibly clever deal for a player that's got stuff to prove, about to go into his prime years. No transfers guaranteed, we all know that, but I think it's a clever deal for a club that finished 8th, remember. They're not trying to win the league this year. They're trying to get in the top 4. I'm very happy with it. And Mazraoui, don't know as much about him, but was very good at Ajax. And again, Man United are short on fullbacks. And again, I think it's a good bit of business for 15 million quid.
What about Bissaka going out?
Yeah, I think that had to happen. I mean, you're a fullback, aren't you? But I think in the modern game, if you look at Trent, he's crap defensively, but he's brilliant going forward. Wan-Bissaka's not so good going forward. He's brilliant defensively. I think if you're going to play for the top 4, you've got to go forward. And Wan-Bissaka will be a very good signing for West Ham.
I think it's a wicked transfer for West Ham. It's a win-win. It's a massive win-win. Man United get 15 million quid. For West Ham, that's not breaking the bank. And then for the player himself, that is an exact cert, like it's a proper fit for Wan-Bissaka. He knows he's not going to have to go marauding up and down the line to try and get balls into the box. He knows that his job's going to be defensively, be solid, be sound, stop people beating you. And that's exactly what he does. 1v1 defending, he is right up there.
Yeah.
Like right up there. His pace is ridiculous.
Right time to go.
That's what I mean. It's the right time for him. It's the right time for him.
Is this a bit of a snip though, Robbo?
But we've also seen with Wan-Bissaka, like we're talking about it there, we've also seen how badly out of position he gets in games.
Yeah.
Defensively, as when he's played with Casemiro, the two of them, obviously Casemiro's not a centre-half, but when they play in the back 4 together, you can see how unbalanced that team is. So totally agree with Mark. I think that the Ligt signings, I think is a great bit of business. Ten Hag now this is a big year for him as a manager, especially at Man United, and I think he's now buying players that he trusts. And I think if he can get them all working on the same page and doing what he wants them to do, they will be a strong force this year. That's what I believe. I believe that now he's been given the opportunity to build his own team. So he's now going to buy players that he understands and he trusts fully, that he knows that will bring the best out of Man United. I think it's a great bit of business there.
I think they have got a bit more consistency with the boardroom and the signings they've made. The other thing, Mark, as well, which I don't think can be undervalued, is you've got Kobbie Mainoo, who's had so much more experience, even in a short period of time. Garnacho's another year. Højlund. You've got 3 players there that have got the benefit of more experience, and surely that'll mean consistency, right?
Yeah, and Ahmad was brilliant in pre-season and ended the season well as well, so that's another one. Collier and Amas did well on pre-season. That's another 2 young players coming through. But I agree with Robbo. I think that when you look at that United side, I think Ten Hag's done well over 2 years to deal with a dressing room that's so toxic and so, dismantled and misfits. They've clearly looked at De Ligt and Mazraoui, because they've played with Ten Hag before and they're good players, that if you bring players into the dressing room, it can go one or 2 ways, can't they? You sign a player where you've played, they might go with the niche group or they might go with the manager, whereas these players are going to go with the manager. And I think they need that. They need that togetherness. because there are one or two players still there, like Sancho and maybe a Casemiro, etc., who maybe had problems with the manager last year. So they need that togetherness. But
I think they've got the players. I'm not worried about the players for Man United. I think that my worry is whether they can deal with that expectation, is deal with that playing for Manchester United. I think that for me has always been the problem, especially over the last few years since Alex Ferguson retired. I just think it's the toughest team to play for in world football. It is. It's as simple
Is that
as that.
still the case, do you think?
I think it is, yeah. I think they're the toughest team, the hardest team to play for in world football. That expectation is still so high and the pressure is still so much. And you try and put that pressure and expectation on the shoulders of 23, 24-year-old lads. It's a lot to ask. It is. It's a lot.
It's always been like that, though, hasn't it?
It has always
been like
been
that in
like
the 70s and 80s. It's just got that aura of it, and you can fall into this 20, 30 years without a trophy, and it doesn't matter how crap the players are that put the shirt on. You're never going to move away from that expectation.
But in that Alex Ferguson era, especially towards the end as well, you had so many leaders in every different position on that pitch, through the spine of the pitch for one, and then in each different department. You had so many winners, but like not just winners, like real kind of, they would take that responsibility and they would thrive off that responsibility as well. And I just think football in general has watered down that, hasn't it? Football in general, there's not so many of those guys about. But I think playing for Man United still, for me, is the hardest team to play for in world football.
But behind the scenes at Man United, sorry there, Tom, but behind the scenes at Man United now, they seem to be getting it right. So they've just got in Dan Ashworth he's done fantastic at Brighton. He's done fantastic at Newcastle with bringing in the recruitment of players that the manager wants. So again, that relationship with him and Ten Hag now is really important. So Ten Hag's now highlighting, I want these players. Whereas before we've seen at Man United, they've just gone, maybe not done their homework on a player, and they've just gone, yeah, we'll have him. Yeah, we'll buy him. And they don't fit into what Man United's all about. And that's where players struggle. If they haven't got that mindset or that mentality of going, I'm going to go to Man United and I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that. Whereas some players, like we've seen over the years, have gone there just for the money.
Yeah.
And they then can't cope with the outside noise of going, well, you're not good enough and I'm going to get the abuse, and they go into hiding. Whereas now, like you say, Ten Hag, Dan Ashworth behind the scenes are now building, it looks like they're building a Man United that's going to be a force.
Looks like the culture's changing, doesn't it? And especially you've got people like Ruud van Nistelrooy coming into the club as well.
Yeah, I love
that.
that.
It's good.
I love that.
Yeah, really
bringing
good.
in people that know the club.
That's what they need to do. Yeah.
And the youth as well, like Mark's touched on there, he's massive. Ten Hag, he's a big believer in bringing the academy through. So it looks like now as well, he's not going to be afraid. Go on, if I believe in you, you're going to get your opportunity to show me what you're all about.
Who's going to be Man United's most important player this season?
Martinez, I think.
I like that. I put him in my fantasy Premier League team,
I mean, look, Luke Shaw getting injured again is a whole fucking hour in itself. I mean, putting your club before your country and getting injured, and I'm just disgusted with it, to be honest. But that might be problematic because we might have to move Martinez to left back now, which would be a pain starting the season like that. But Martinez is, I think how Martinez and De Ligt work is massive, because that will change Onana's game.
Yeah.
The defence will be higher to play out from the back. We know Onana as a keeper is not a great shot stopper, but if you let him play out from the back and be a sweeper keeper, that's what he was brought in for. So, yeah, I think Martinez, and what they do around Casemiro as well. There's talk of Agate coming in. I think midfield games are won and lost in the midfield. So, yeah.
We've got to talk about Chelsea, Fozzy. So,
yeah.
Cole Palmer's just signed an extension, which takes him to a 9-year deal, is it?
Takes him to 30, I think it does, yeah.
Okay.
52 when he's finished it.
Unbelievable.
So
9-year deal.
What's going on at Chelsea? Because let's just look at it from a football point of view. Enzo Maresca's got Leicester promoted from the Champo with the best squad, Robbo, fair to say. Yeah. Now, it feels like a downgrade from Poch, Ben.
It's a big ask for Enzo Maresca to come into a Chelsea team, which is, again, they're kind of full of kids, right? They're full of very young players, aren't they? On very long contracts. Why
are they giving out 9-year contracts?
So there's been loads of rumours about it. I'm not sure. Nobody's really sure, apart from Chelsea, probably themselves. There's rumours that he's given them a 9-year contract because they might know behind the scenes somewhere down the line they might get a transfer ban for some sort of something. So they're trying to stockpile players, young players especially, on long contracts, knowing that if they do get a 2-year transfer ban, they've still got the players. They ain't going to be trying to sign people here, there and everywhere. But the big worry for me is 9 years, right? For a 21-year-old, human nature just makes you take your foot off the gas, doesn't it? As soon as you get comfy, not everybody, and I don't mean everybody when I say this, but most people, most footballers I've come across, right, that if you get them a 9-year deal, would go, thank you very much. I am chilling. I am absolutely cooking, right? I ain't got to really, really dig in. And when you get that in your head, I haven't really, really got to dig in, even if you take your foot 5% off the gas, it's the difference. It's the difference between really doing it and being nowhere near it, really. I don't think Cole Palmer is that guy, because you see his performances and the way that he plays, he's very tenacious. He wants to win. He's a hungry little rat.
Enjoys playing football.
He enjoys playing football. And I'd like to think he'll carry on doing that. But you can't just go giving 9-year contracts out.
Well, part of the reason, sorry, Mark, is obviously this profit and sustainability rule. So we're not a football finance show, but basically clubs can't make a loss of more than £105 million over a 3-year period. So all you're doing is you're getting that cost of 40 million for Cole Palmer, you're spreading it over a longer amount of time, which basically helps with the books. Yeah. So with these signings, this is what, when we say the game is gone, there's a lot of decisions being made now because of loopholes to try and find their way and battle the PSR and financial fair play. So I think Chelsea, like you said, Ben, they're almost like stockpiling players, aren't they?
Well, they're like, considering Newcastle, right, the richest club in the world, they can't seem to buy anybody. They can't seem to spend any money. Yet Chelsea have done nothing but spend money.
That's what worries me about Chelsea, is the fact that Newcastle, the richest club in the world, who are obviously complying with whatever the rules are, knowing they're the richest club in the world. And you've got Chelsea going, let's do this.
And find the loopholes later.
Yeah. And the problem with that is, as well, if you've got Cole Palmer, who thinks a good player, on a 9-year contract, the biggest problem is for Cole Palmer, because if Chelsea stays shit, when he's 25, he might fancy a move and Chelsea might go, we want ridiculous money, but you find your way out, don't you? What we've got at United is we want to sell Maguire, we want to sell Lindelof, we want to sell Eriksen. They're all on 150k a week. We can't sell them, and they're sat there going, well, I've got 2-3 years. You've got, no one's going to pay me this. And that's what Chelsea will have. But with 6-7 years, with people like Mudryk, who no one wants, Chelsea, and they want to get rid of,
they'll have a dozen players that could potentially be in that scenario.
That's the problem for Chelsea.
That's crazy.
Because every transfer, I think it's like a 60% chance it will do well, 40% won't.
Yeah.
They've probably got 4 or 5 players on 9-year contracts that are going to be flops for 9 years on massive wages. And how you get rid of them?
Oh, have you ever...
You ring Villa up and you ring Everton up and go, you've got a player that you want a bit of money for and we want a bit of money for. Let's do a swap.
It's exactly what's happening, Mark. It's exactly what's happening, which is why the integrity of it will ask to be questioned. But Robbo, just quickly, Ben, Robbo, you wanted to talk about Conor Gallagher.
Yeah.
So for me, the people that this is having a detrimental effect on are Conor Gallagher, Amanda Broha, and Nathaniel Chalobah, for example.
Yeah,
Trevor Chalobah.
Yeah, but for me, these now, you're affecting the human being. This is where we're talking about players that have come through the academy, they love the club, and you're now messing around with their head. You've basically told Conor Gallagher that he's no longer needed with what he's done at Chelsea throughout his years and what he did last year, where he's come on the scene and he's taken his game to the next level and he's played for England over the summer. Now you've got that phone call to say you're no longer wanted or you can't train with us. So when you come back in, you've got to train with the 21s or like the bin squad that they've got. We're gonna send you over to Atletico Madrid because now they've made an offer and they're going to sign you. Now he's come back because the deal was messed up. And so now you've got to look at it from the human being's point of view, is that where's his head at now, Conor Gallagher? He's now been told he's no longer needed at Chelsea. He's had to come back because something's going on with the deal in Spain and they can't get it done. Now he's got to come back to a Chelsea training camp where he knows he's not training with the players that he worked with last year. And he's got to go off either by himself or with the squad like Iboja, your Trevor Chalobahs. So players, again, now that are not wanted by a club, where's their heads at in these training sessions?
This is a massive...
So where is their heads at?
People don't attribute the fact that these are actual human beings, right? They've got feelings attached to them as well. I think people talk about these players like they're just a product, yeah? Something that can be bought and sold and that's all there's to it. There's no other underlying feelings, emotions, nothing, right? Like I say, they're not just other players. They're his mates, yeah? Conor Gallagher isn't allowed to come in and work and see his mates, the people that he spends more time with than his whole family, yeah? He comes into work, and that's what you do with people that you work with. You spend more time with them than you do with them. They become your family. So he's not allowed to come in and be with his family anymore. Trevor Chalobah, like, I see a lot of Chelsea fans saying he's probably one of our best centre-backs. Yet, because he's English and we have to sell him, that's it. He's out the door. We've got to sell him. Simple as that. So they basically say to Trevor, right, mate, listen, the way that it looks nowadays with FFP is that we've got to sell you. So unlucky, mate, you're just going to have to stay over there. And that's all there is to it.
This is it, Mark. So when we're saying about it's the youngsters, and the reason being behind it is because they didn't cost the club money, because they've come through the academy, if they get 40 million for him, it's pure profit.
It wouldn't happen at Man United. It wouldn't happen at Liverpool. And I think Chelsea fans need to, well, I'm not here to tell Chelsea fans what they should do, but it's a good club. You know, I know people who support Chelsea, and they need to be more vocal about it, because you can't just sit there and go, well, if it ends up with us winning the title. You did that with Abramovich. Like, you've got morals here. I mean, imagine Conor Gallagher. We're all excited about the opening weekend of the season. He wants to bloody play in it. And he can't play in it because he's a homegrown player that's got value. But I tell you what, let's put Mudryk on the bench on a 9-year contract who probably doesn't give a shit about Chelsea. Yeah. You're more valuable to Chelsea Football Club than Conor Gallagher. It's absolute piss take. And as a fan, I want Conor Gallagher to play for Chelsea, not Mudryk. Yeah. So if you tried to do that to Kobe Mainoo or a Garnacho or a Toby Collier at Man United, you'd get a fucking uproar. People would be like, crazy. What are you doing? You're sticking bloody Casemiro in the team and you're trying to sell Kobe Mainoo. Piss off, we're not doing that. And Casemiro's better than Mudryk.
That's where we are with football now, lads. Yeah. That's why it almost makes you sort of lose a bit of faith in humanity a bit, doesn't it?
Mercenary.
Because, it's mercenary. It is.
It's American football.
It is. It's that's starting to take over a little bit.
It's that franchise feel where fans are just expected to swallow whatever franchise shit a club wants to do. Fans need to resist.
The way they do it in America is you don't get a say in a transfer. If you're a player, you are a commodity, and that is that. You don't get no say. If they say they're sending you to Timbuktu, you're gone, mate. You're done. You don't get family, pack up, see you later, we're gone.
Well, it's like, we live in Texas, you're off to Miami. Okay, I'll tell the family. No, actually, you're not now. You're off to Cincinnati.
Boom.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Well, let's move on to a club that's, let's say, far more settled. So Arsenal, Ben, obviously, they didn't tail off last season. City won it. This season, can they go that step further and win it? Or are they glaringly still missing that striker?
Yeah, I still think they're missing that striker, but let's give Arsenal their dues, right? Of all the clubs we're talking about so far, Arsenal, to me, seem to be the most stable, solid football club. Yeah? In that top echelons of the Premier League. There's some fantastic teams in the Premier League that run themselves really well. But for everything that's going on in football nowadays, I'm going to say fair play to Arsenal, because they look like they have got their shit together. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Everything about it, the way the club is, the way it's viewed as a whole package, as a football club, top class. Whether they win the Premier League this season, I still think they're a striker short, and it's still been the same way for about 3 or 4 years now.
Well, Spurs, down the road from them, Spurs have just signed Solanke, Robbo.
Yeah.
Would that have been a fit for Arsenal?
It's a great fit. I think he's a very good signing, Solanke. He's a proven goal scorer. He's done it in all the leagues that he's played in. And again, he's English. So they've looked at that as well. Tottenham have looked at an English talented player that's coming through. And we can now probably promote him now to the English level, because I felt he should have been in the England squad over the summer with what he'd done at Bournemouth, even though you don't get the credit you deserve when you're playing at a team like Bournemouth because they're seen as like the lesser club. But he scored goals. He still produces goals. So for me, I think...
He'd have been better off sat on a bench in Zante than sat on the bench for Southgate, though.
No, I know, I understand. But as a player, you always...
Yeah, I know what you mean, but he wouldn't have used him, would he?
But you always, like you say, in his head, he would have seen himself as a good player to come off the bench and produce a little bit of magic for England. They always have their moments, don't they, strikers?
I think he's a fantastic signing for Spurs.
I think he's a great signing.
I think he's a cracking signing. I think there's one player that Arsenal could possibly look to sign. There's been a bit of rumours about it, is Toney. Ivan, however you sell it, Ivan Toney. I was listening to TalkSport yesterday, actually, and I think it was Simon Jordan, actually. He was talking about this. He was talking about the mechanics of the transfer of Ivan Toney. And he said, I happen to know the mechanics. I happen to know what the player is asking for per week. And he actually said out on air, he wants £250,000 a week. And I'm thinking,
fair play.
Wow. But then straight away, though, if you're Arsenal, that upsets the apple cart, because you get all the other players that are playing.
What do you think he's on at Brentford?
He'll be on £100,000 a week. You're getting on for £100,000 a week, probably. But I don't blame him for asking for £250,000 a week. But you need to know, though, that if you are going to go into football clubs and ask for £250,000 a week, that there's only one or two, realistically, that can pay that sort of money.
Well, we're talking, again, football, mercenary and stuff like that. And I wouldn't attach that word to Ivan Toney, because he's not had 10 years at a top 4 club. And at the age that he's at, can you blame him for wanting the big payday?
No, and I think it's interesting that that's the story because someone on the United stand said it this morning because he's been linked to United for a loan obligation to buy. Yep. I think somebody in the Premier League needs to, in that last week, drop the shittest offer on Brentford's toes and just go, we'll give you 30 million. Yeah. Just because you're not getting anything else in the final year. And that might be another reason why Ivan Toney wants 250k, because someone gets him cheap from Brentford, you go, you're getting me cheap, I want the big wage. But I actually was like, I couldn't understand why Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal haven't gone for him, being London clubs, and he's based in London. Surprising. Maybe he will end up at Man United, but he's a proven Premier League striker. I wondered if there was something else, something else about personality or whatever. I don't know.
Think of that financial package. You're talking over 15 million quid a year there, just on wages alone.
But he's also looking at it, that's going to be his last big contract.
Without doubt.
So him in his head now, he's just thinking, I just want one more good contract for me.
Yeah.
And then I'm settled, I'm done, and then I make decisions at the end. And near come to the end of that contract, do I just step down a league and just play? Yeah. To say, right, that's it, I'm retiring, or...
I suppose when you think about it, Arsenal can't pay 250 grand a week for someone who'd probably be on the bench a bit. Man United can't do it because he's probably on the bench a bit. Spurs would start him, but can't afford that. I still think Chelsea should have gone for him.
The thing is, he's in a really good position because he's got a year left on his deal. If he does let that
he'll
run
get that
down,
wage in the year, won't he?
That's what I mean. If he does let it run down, he'll get that anyway. Yeah. Whoever he goes to, because they're not paying that transfer fee, they'll be able to pay him the 15 million quid a year that's going to cost somebody.
Go Saudi.
I think when you look at someone like an Arteta as well, Arsenal now, with what he's created there, is he going to want...
That's the thing.
Is he going to want someone like a Toney at Arsenal on that money, disrupting things a little bit? And in his head, with what he's done now over the last couple of years, he's got them in such a good position now, Arteta, and he's thinking... Right, well, if I bring that one person in now and the money's been highlighted all over TalkSport and social media, what my other teammates going to think now, or what the players going to think now that I'm bringing into the dressing room a little bit.
They do need
You're going to upset it, but they do need that goal scorer.
That number 9, though.
It. But I think with Arteta, he wants perfection now. When you look at him, he wants that number 9 that connects with all the team, not just individually.
Yeah, he's picking up Jesus again, isn't he? Like, Jesus had a bad season last year, and he's sort of like going, Jesus this year is going to be this, that, and the other. So you sort of sense there's no striker coming in.
He's streaky, though, isn't he? But you look at City and Julian Alvarez, is that just a case of, they've lost another player, but they'll just replace him? No, because it's a big loss.
It's a big loss, mate. The amount of games and goals that he played last season, I think he was he played the third most amount of minutes last season behind Rodri and somebody else. He's a big loss for Man City, to know that if Haaland, for whatever reason, isn't quite firing, coming on late in games, if he's injured, that you've got a guy good to go that's going to come in and score you goals. Like, everybody needs that number 9. Everybody needs a striker. Everybody. I don't care who you are. Man City are still looking for another striker. Man United are. They're all looking for a big striker, but there's not that many about.
There's an element to City at the moment as well. I was going to say it when you were talking about it a few minutes ago. And I might be wrong, because there's still 2 weeks of the window left, but there was talk of Bruno Guimaraes for 100 million. That's not happened. Alvarez has gone. You've mentioned De Bruyne and Ederson. I mean, I don't know. Pep probably going in a year. Are Man City sort of this season, let's see if we can win the league with what we got. We probably can, because we don't know what's coming after Christmas. Let's not start buying players and let's just go with what we've got for a year, because we don't know what's coming at Christmas.
I say as well, Man City are probably the best equipped team to not have to worry about a striker as well, because even if Erling Haaland is injured, I would still back Man City to score 3 or 4 goals in most games.
Just
because of the way they played, like the way that they played in years gone by with Aguero at the top, and the way that they would just pop it, get it in behind you, cut it back, goal. Whichever one of you defenders or midfielders arrives in there, goal.
If he got an injury though, Ben, that could change the face of the league right now, couldn't it?
Who, Haaland?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it would do, but I'd still back Man City to still be beating most teams though. I really would. Just because of the way they play. If it happened to one of the big boys, if Arsenal lost their big striker, or Man United, Liverpool, you'd worry for them. But still, Man City, I would still think...
The way they play Man City as well, don't they? Because they've got so much rotation in their team. You could play anyone up 9, up at the top, could you really? Yeah. You could play Foden up there and go...
You see how many goals he scored end of last season?
It's just, he just creates that atmosphere, doesn't he, Guardiola, where is that all the players understand their roles and responsibilities, and they can go anywhere on the pitch and create madness.
And we saw the Charity Shield, Community Shield, and there's some youngsters coming off the bench there. Bob got a start, and you're going, they just look like they've got another 5 or 6 youngsters coming in that are just ready for it, don't they? What do you reckon, Matt?
Yeah, I do, but I also think there's a bit of lethargy to them. I mean, I find Man City quite boring anyway, but I think even they themselves just feel to be a little bit reserved compared to normal summers. They just feel a little... It feels like their fans are full of it and they're not bothered about the 115, but I think the club are behaving a little bit at the moment like, we don't know which way this is going to go actually, so let's just see. And we probably have got enough anyway to win the league.
I don't think the Premier League really know which way this is going to go. I think they've got a massive decision to make as well, haven't they?
I'll tell you what is an interesting club we need to talk about is Liverpool, because there's 2 trains of thought. They haven't really signed many players.
I don't think they needed to, though.
Well, this is it. Are they going for consistency with the new manager? What's your opinion? Because it's been very quiet on Merseyside, hasn't it, Matt?
Well, I think Arne Slot's a really interesting coach. I think when you know what he's done at Feyenoord, they didn't win the league last year, but they won it the year before. Got European experience. They are about high possession in the final third, high intensity without the ball, playing out from the back. Very similar to Klopp. I thought it was really interesting how they've not bought anybody, and all right, that Zubimendi deal's fallen through, but it's clear that Liverpool's plan is to go with continuity of the team that they had last year, which makes sense because I think Klopp's team wasn't quite ready last year, and we spoke about that. And the only problem is Klopp left too soon. So I think they've gone for a manager to pick that team up and run with it. I think the last thing they wanted was a guy to come in and go, I'm here now. I don't care what was going on with Klopp. We're going to dismantle it. So that's the route they've gone down. If it all falls apart, Liverpool fans are going to lose their shit and say, well, you never backed the manager. But I actually think they've got so many good, talented players. I think Mo Salah will be player of the year. I think if he stays fit, he'll be player of the year. And I think Slot's style of football will work, unfortunately, as a United fan. So I think they're going to have a good... I don't think they'll expect to beat Man City or Arsenal, but I think they'll comfortably top.
The only reason why I said, when I mentioned Arsenal the other day, saying I think fair play to Arsenal because they seem like a club that have got all their stuff together. The only reason why I didn't mention Liverpool was because they've got a few players coming out of contract as well. So Trent into the last year of his contract, which, by the way, is absolute bonkers, isn't it, Robbo? Like, in modern day football, letting a player like a Trent Alexander-Arnold get into the last year of his contract. I think Mo Salah's into his last year of his contract as well. Van Dijk, yeah. I think, is into the last year of their contract.
Yeah, I think there was a player, I can't remember, who was saying they need to get these nailed down now, but...
Mate, I guarantee, they've had contract negotiations for the last year. I promise you that. There's nobody gets down to the last year of their contract now. They don't even get down to 18 months, do they? Once you start getting nearer that 2-year mark, if you're a big player like a Trent or a Salah or a Van Dijk, then you have contract negotiations.
Maybe they've all said they're going. Maybe they're all said, look, we're going to go.
Exactly.
We're going to go.
The bit there that makes me worry a little bit is if they have already made their mind up that they're going to go on a free transfer at the end of the season, Mo Salah can go to somewhere in Saudi Arabia on £1 million a week. Yeah? That he can't he? Trent Alexander-Arnold could go and join Real Madrid at the end of the season on £500,000 a week. You're talking crazy.
But would you be concerned if you were a Liverpool fan, Ben, because they haven't got any big names coming in? The Zubimendi deal fell through. They've got a new sporting director in Richard Hughes, and there maybe is some whispers that they're not getting players over the line. Is it because Klopp left? But also the age of these players as well, Ben. VVD's 33. Salah's 32.
Yeah. I still wouldn't worry about VVD and Salah. I agree with Mark. I still think Salah will probably be player of the season next year. I think he's world class, unbelievable. Van Dijk, I still would think he's one of the best defenders in the league. But my worry is the fact that their contracts are running out, because I know how football works from the inside, and nobody, if you're a big name footballer, nobody is allowed to get down to their last year. Contract negotiations have taken place, and for some reason, they just haven't agreed.
You know what it'll be, though? It'll be, you're 33, we'll give you 2 years on a slightly less wage, and then Van Dijk will go, you do realise I'll triple my wage in Saudi Arabia.
There you go.
And then that's another aspect of football.
This is what Saudi has brought now to modern day football, is that these older players that get to the 32s, 33s go, hang on a minute, why would I sign on half the money that I've been earning for the last 5 or 6 years when I can let my contract run out and I can go and triple my wages if I go out to Saudi? That's the bit there that's happening in football nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think Arnie's he's a very shrewd manager as well. I think that, like you say, I think he'll get some players through over the line. It's just taking time. And again, I don't think he wants to upset the apple cart because of the good work that Klopp did there. Again, there was big talks, weren't there, of Xavi Alonso going in there, and then he decided to stay at Bayer Leverkusen because he'd done such a great job. But he's an experienced manager. I think like the Liverpool fans will be worried, but maybe not get so worried because they have still got very good players at the football club, and they have. When you look at it, Klopp, he bled the youngsters in
he did,
quite early.
Yeah.
So again, now Arnie's looking at, well, I've got great experience, but I've also got these younger players now are like that. It's their opportunity to like say to me, going, come on then, I don't need to replace you. So he might just have that breaking in period of going, right, get to the end of the transfer window, right, maybe we need a couple of bodies, and then you make decisions in January then with like you say, your Trents, your Van Dijks, your Salahs, they're coming to the end of their contracts, and then he might just have to make big decisions and go, look, we need to move them on. Now I need to get some new players in now that I know that are going to come to Liverpool and take them forward in my era.
If they get to 6 months left on their...
I still think they'll be fine, though. I still think Liverpool will be fine with that 6 months. I think the big decisions will be made in January. That transfer window is always big in January, isn't it?
And so we don't... But all this talk and it kind of make the consistency and not making radical changes. But do we not think Liverpool have still quite got enough to challenge for the title?
I think if they got Zubimendi, I'd have quite fancied them as an outside shot because he's such a good player. But they obviously still need that 6 next to McAllister. Gravenberg's not really kicked on. Elliott's still quite young. Endo, I don't think he's quite at that level. So they must have to do some business in the next 2 weeks.
Can we talk about Spurs in a minute? But before we do, can we do like our 3 to get relegated, please?
Yeah.
Yeah? Can we? We've done our top 4. Let's do relegation candidates. Is it going to be as simple as the 3 promoted teams going straight back down?
We've got Ipswich, Leicester, Southampton.
Leicester straight away have got their hands tied behind the backs because they get a points deduction, which is going to be tough for them.
Let's assume, well, we don't know yet, do we? So
No.
Shall we go on the assumption that they won't have?
I don't know, because it's almost guaranteed, isn't it?
Okay.
They're all going down anyway.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'm with Robbo. I think Brentford, it might be the end of the cycle for them.
Well, that's what you've got to look at, hasn't it? You've got to look at who is going to drop down. And I think that even if teams like Forest, Fulham, Brentford, Everton have bad seasons, they'll get 35 points. And I think that's really hard for an Ipswich and a Southampton and Leicester to get 35 points. I'd love to see Ipswich stay up because I like what McKenna's done. Southampton, and again, I don't mind any of them staying up. It's nothing personal. I just think it's getting harder and harder.
I agree. That's the thing, isn't it? It's so easy to say the 3 that come up will go straight back down because it is so much harder now. Like you look at the money that's being spent. Some of the players that have been bought from these newly promoted teams. You're talking like Southampton bought. Who was the centre back? Luke, what was his name?
Taylor Harwood Bellis from Man City.
20 million quid.
20 million.
He's never played a Premier League game in his life. Yeah, he's 20 million quid. But that's what the going rate is now. That's what you have to pay to get.
Is it the going rate, Ben, or is this an evolution of the conversation we're having around young players? Are favours being done? Inflated transfer monies for academy players.
Well, they brought Charlie Taylor as well, didn't they? Southampton left back. So what was his fee as well? Because he's another one. Burnley,
But it's big money. But that's what you're talking about. Good, solid English players. But are they going to be able to cut it in
I don't think it's a totally different... We thought Burnley were going to do well because of the football they play and they smashed the Championship. Southampton are similar. When you watch them, it's like all the possession they want. But then Premier League, as soon as you turn that ball over in the final third, you're getting punished now. So the strikers and the players in the Premier League are that next level. Their attackers rarely miss when they're through now one-on-one on goal.
So do you think it's going to be the promoted teams that go back down, Ben?
I always hope it isn't. I really do. I always hope it isn't because I want to see them do well and surprise everybody. The Ipswich story particularly has been incredible. But yeah, I do. I just worry that it's so hard now that it's kind of inevitable, isn't it?
Mark?
Yeah, 3 up, 3 down for me.
Robbo?
Yeah, the 3, yeah. And I'd say borderline Brentford a little bit. I think they might struggle this year.
Well, they finished 16th with 39 points last season.
Yeah.
They keep Toney, they'll stay up. If Toney went to Ipswich, they'd stay up.
Will Toney's head be there?
Well, yeah. Well, it will be because he'll be thinking, like Ben said, final year.
Big move.
Big move in the summer. He's got to score goals. He'll just lock in, won't he?
But then you're also getting, I don't really want to get injured. Oh, I've got a little bit of an injury.
And if
players think like that, players will get to a certain point where they're like, well, this move's not happening, but I've got a free coming now in the summer. 10 games to go. It's, my calf's a little bit tight.
Well, Brentford bought a striker, didn't he? And he's out till Christmas. So
you can get to, if you've got a year left in your contract, you get to Christmas time, you can sign a pre-contract with somebody.
Yeah.
It can go under the radar, keep it stum. you just don't know what's going to happen. And if you've already signed that pre-contract with somebody, there's no saying that you have to go out and bust a ball on a Saturday afternoon. Like you say, Robbo said there, calf's a little bit tight, my hamstring's a little bit tight. Might take it easy today. I'm not really going to try.
You're not going to risk it, are you? Surely.
No, you're not.
So what about your boyhood team, Ben? Spurs, 5th place last season. More of the same, is it? I
think so, yeah. I think they were crying out for a good striker, somebody to try and fill the mantle of Harry Kane. It's a tough ask. But I think 60 million quid is a lot of money on the face of it. However, I think it's a safe 60 million quid. Dominic Solanke is a safe 60 million quid. He's somebody that very rarely gets injured, did very, very well last couple of seasons, actually. But knowing you can sign somebody that's going to play for you and do well in the Premier League for 60 million quid, I think is a safe bet. You could sign players for the same amount of money from Europe, but you don't know how that's going to translate into the Premier League.
Do you think they'll have enough? So last season they had kind of quite long periods where Van der Ven and James Maddison were unfit.
Yeah.
Do you think if they have a reasonable bill of health, they can do much more than 5th?
Yeah, I think I think they're going to finish in the top 4 this season, just because I think the wheels started falling off for them last season when they started picking up all those injuries, and they did pick up an awful lot of injuries in the space of about 6 weeks, didn't they? And like I say, if you can keep them fit this season, it's another it's another year on with Postecoglou in charge, having him implement his ways. I watch him in pre-season. I've watched the way he shouts at them in pre-season. My gosh, honestly, I expect so much of this Tottenham team. The work rate, ability, cool. He wants them because he knows they've got ability. He expects that, but it's the work rate that he expects. He expects everyone to be pressing from the front, everybody backing up behind it as well. And I think he's probably had a really good off-season of getting his team and players to buy into what he's trying to do as well.
Mark,
7th.
Spurs, 7th.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult from probably 3rd place to 8th because you've got Chelsea, Villa, Spurs, Newcastle, Man United, Liverpool. But I think Spurs are Spurs. And I think that they will ultimately have a few. I think they'll probably start the season well, and they're an exciting team. But at some point, maybe the Europa League won't help. I think they'll have a bit of a dip. And
do you want a £100 charity bet that Tottenham finish above Man United?
Oh, it's easy work.
Well, left hand, you can't shake left-handed. That's weird.
Why? Because I'm left-handed.
Yeah, but still, nobody shakes left-handed.
They do if you're left-handed.
Do they?
No, they don't.
Do left-handers shake left-handed?
No.
Well, about natural to me.
Oh, it's horrible.
What I really like with the Tottenham one as well,
Try it
Tom,
with
is
your left
Archie Gray.
Archie Gray.
Archie Gray for me is I loved watching him when he was at Leeds. Obviously, come through the academy at Leeds and done so well. Come onto the scene really quickly as well. Another one that's just gone like
He's
forward.
got a bit of pedigree, hasn't he, as
He
well?
has got everything about him. I mean, watched him closely, and yeah, what a player. Football, but a football brain as well. So he can play right back. He can play anywhere in the centre of the park, and he's got great energy, tenacity as well. Will put his foot in, not afraid to get stuck in. I think that's a really good, shrewd bit of business by Tottenham getting that one in as well.
So you reckon if they have a reasonable season injury-wise, do you think they could potentially push?
I think that's the big thing for Tottenham is keeping them key players fit, like your Maddisons, like your Mickey van der Vens, because he's a powerhouse centre half, and when he didn't play, he was a big loss because we ended up playing Royale centre half, and yeah, no, Tottenham can't afford to lose them players. Especially with someone like a Romero next year as well. You've got that good balance now there with Van der Ven and Romero. You got your two out-and-out fullbacks like your Pedros and your Udogie, who again I really like because they get forward and they're very attacking fullbacks. Solanke's now that vocal point in the team for Tottenham that they haven't had since Harry Kane, even though Harry used to drop deeper, but he had the runners in Son getting behind. Whereas now, like you say, you've got that energy with Archie Gray who'll run if Solanke is dropping short. Richarlison's not really a striker, so they've struggled with that, playing him up there, and that hold-up play's not the best, whereas Solanke will hold the ball up and bring players into play as well. So, yeah, they've got that real good balance about them now, Tottenham, but it's just keeping everyone fit.
They've got a bit of depth across the front line as well, with Kulusevski, Son. They've got a bit of depth there. Now, if Tottenham won the League Cup and came fourth, for a team like Tottenham right now, that'd be a great season, Mark, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Yes.
They'd have to rent a bus.
I think for any of those...
When was the last time they won a trophy? 2008?
Carling Cup. I think for any of those sort of teams that we've mentioned, your Villas, Tottenhams, Newcastles, Man Uniteds, I think if they finish top four and won a cup, it's an unbelievable season.
I think it's going to be hard for Villa.
Very high.
I've got them in 8th because I think Champions League football is a great achievement, but that squad, although they bought well, I think Barkley, Onana's interesting. They brought some good players in. I just think, like Newcastle last year, rabbit in the headlights.
Yeah.
It's going to be great for the fans, but you're going to be focusing on what you're doing on a Wednesday and
not on the
dropping.
I think, let's talk about the fans, right? I've got loads of mates that are Villa fans and they are super excited about the Champions League draw going on that journey. I don't think Villa fans, I might be wrong, get in the comment, but would be too upset if they came 6th or 7th this season and had maybe just got out the group.
Quarterfinals or something in the Champions League. Oh, my God.
I think everything for Villa at the moment is a progression for them with what they've achieved. Like you say, they've achieved Champions League football, which is fantastic for the football club. The players they're now attracting, every club that's in European football, they have to have bigger squads anyway, just to cope with injuries, suspensions. So I feel Villa will be all right this year. I do think that, like you say, he's done a fantastic job there, Emre, and I think he will keep building and building. Like Mark said there, they might just struggle a little bit with the Champions League football. But as a Villa fan, it's exciting. I think they're all a bit excited again.
Talk about teams that have got their stuff together. Villa, you could put into that.
They've lost a couple. They've lost Dougie Luiz to Villa. They've lost Diaby to Al Ittihad. They're a couple of big blows for them. They've signed Onana. Ian Matson from Chelsea, nearly 38 million quid. He's played 12 Premier League games.
Well,
16 in Dortmund.
Yeah,
16 in Dortmund. It's a lot of money, though, isn't it?
That's the going rate, mate. That is the going rate nowadays, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
A lot of business went on between Villa and Chelsea as well.
What are you saying, Mark? What are you saying?
A lot of business went on between Villa, Chelsea, Everton, and Newcastle.
Good friends, aren't they?
Yeah. So where do you think Villa? What you?
I'm putting them in a top 6. Outside the Champions League, but a good team though. They're a good team, Villa, and I like watching.
Trouble is, you've got to put one, or actually, you've got to put 2 of Villa, Man United, Chelsea, Spurs, Newcastle, Liverpool, and there's another one, Spurs. I've said them. Yeah. In 7th and 8th.
I know.
Not a good season.
No, it's
but that's the competitive nature of the top 8.
There.
And also, a lot of people saying West Ham have had a great window. They played Villa on the opening day. I mean, I think it's very hard to break into the top 8 if you're a Brighton, a West Ham, or a Wolves this year.
Okay, and then Newcastle. So again, it's been quite a quiet window so far.
Dark horse.
They've had eyes on Gahey, haven't managed to get it over the line. What's the expectations, Mark, this season?
I think they'll do well because they're not in Europe. And I think when Eddie Howe's not in Europe, he gets that team really energetic. St James's Park, never write them off there. They're so energetic there. Half their games are there. And I think if they're not in Europe, that gives them a massive advantage on the other 7 clubs who all are. They've still got that strong core if they can keep it fit. You know, Botman, Shaw, if they can bring Guehi in. Dan Burn's very reliable. Trippier's reliable. Pope will be back. Isak scores you goals like Watkins. Yeah. That's a big thing.
He's just getting better and better.
Anthony Gordon, they've kept hold of him. What a player. Bruno Guimaraes, they've kept hold of him. Joel Linton. I think they've got... Harvey Barnes was injured a lot last year.
Have they got the depth, though, Mark?
Well, no. But I think not being in Europe... That they should be okay.
They didn't have, did they, last year? That's where they struggled. Last year they struggled.
I think they're the dark horse.
They found it tough because of the injuries that they picked up. But this year, like you say, no European football for them this year.
I think this emotional toll, isn't it?
Yeah.
The emotional toll of Europe, people think, it's just one more game in the week. And it's not, though, because you're playing the game on a Saturday, you're travelling on the Monday to somewhere in Europe, you're not getting back till early hours of Thursday morning.
Your fixtures are changing to Sunday.
Exactly. You've got to prepare for the Sunday fixture. You're constantly on the go. You never get to just sleep in your own bed at night all week. You don't get to do that. And that is the bit that tires people out more than anything. The 90 minutes, players are fit as a fiddle. It's the emotional, mental tiredness that playing in Europe, that's what it gives them. And when you haven't done it before, like Newcastle, it just takes over. These players aren't experienced with play. You've got your Man Cities and your Arsenals and Man Utd even, who are used to doing that. That's part of their heritage as a football club. They've done it for decades and decades now. But for Newcastle, it's all new and shiny.
And what about overperformers this season, like the dark horses? Is there anyone you've got your eye on?
I've got Crystal Palace. I think Glasner last season got them popping, absolutely popping. The way that they finished the season, he found a real style. Some of the players that they've got, I know losing Elise is a massive blow to them. But if they're bought in Sarr, and if they can keep Eze fit and keep him at the club, I think they'll do all right this season.
Mateta's a great player.
Yeah, Mateta scores you goals. He's guaranteed to score you goals.
Second half of last season, Mark.
Yeah.
I think I was doing something the other week, actually, looking at stats on, it was for Højlund, because he gets no service, but he's got really good conversion. And everything I threw in, Mateta was coming out on top.
Really?
So he's very, very consistently prolific as well.
Dean Henderson in goal as well. Finished, when Sam Johnson unfortunately got the injury last season, Dean Henderson came in, did incredible. Apparently he's been given the number 1 shirt this season as well for Crystal Palace, so I think he's going to be starting the season. I think they're another one who looked fairly settled as a football club.
And I didn't realise this until a few years ago, but there's a bit of an unwritten rule in goalkeeping, Ben. And isn't it that the goalkeeper that starts the last pre-season game starts the season?
Yes.
Is that a thing?
That is a thing. That is absolutely a thing. It's always been a thing throughout my career as well, is that last pre-season game is normally a decent friendly. So if you're, take for a West Brom, for example, we would be playing our last pre-season game at home on a Saturday afternoon. And if I started in goal, I knew I was starting the following Saturday. Same, not nailed on, but for most of the starting lineup as well, isn't it, Robert? You've still got a few injuries. A few players might be coming back from Europe or something like that, international games. But you're trying to get your starting lineup on that Saturday afternoon as close as you possibly can for the Premier League game.
Right, okay. Dark horse, Robbo.
I'm going to go West Ham. Like Mark was going to point before.
I like that.
I just think West Ham might have a real good season this year. With the players.
I like that, yeah. I have a couple of very good signings, to be fair.
Fulkrug, I love.
Fulkrug, I love. I'm the same.
Old-fashioned.
Old-fashioned,
yeah. Somerville, the one from Liverpool.
Yeah.
Leeds, the one.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Wan-Bissaka, defensive.
They've got a lot of good players anyway that were probably a bit restricted by a Moyes system as well.
Yeah.
The Poteu's a little bit more, the Bowens, the Paquetas, the Ward-Prowsers will probably have a little bit more freedom. So, yeah.
Is that your choice, Mark, as an overachiever?
No, I want to go a little bit different. I mean, I think Newcastle are my dark horse, but obviously they're in the top 8 already. So outside of the top 8, I actually think Brighton. I think Matoma missed a lot of the season. Ferguson had a bad season. They have bought a load of players that no one will really know anything about, and they've got a new manager. So they've got the components to be an absolute shit show like Burnley last year, or they've got the components to do what Brighton can do. So I will go Brighton.
So let's talk about Brighton. So this is one thing I wanted to talk about. It has gone a little bit under the radar. 31-year-old manager, Fabian Herzler, I might have pronounced that wrong, guided St. Pauli to promotion in the Bundesliga. 31 years old. What do you make of that?
I just think with Brighton, we're all established by it now, aren't they? Whatever they've thrown into whatever computer system they've got, it's probably going to work. Whoever they've bought, whoever their manager's going to be, it's not going to be a surprise if they're suddenly being touted for the next Bayern Munich manager within a year or two, and their players are going to go into Chelsea for 100 million. It's a system that everyone's trying to catch up with, and you do wonder if at some point it's going to not work, isn't it? Maybe it will be this time, but I think what they do is great.
Even if it doesn't work, though, Brighton are such a settled football club now that even if it doesn't work straight away for the first month, they're not going to change anything.
When they first got promoted, you never would have thought Brighton would just become an established top 10 team.
But they stick to their guns. Yeah. They've got a set way of doing things now, from all the hierarchy into the manager, into the players. They've got a set way of playing football, and they stick with it. And they say to these young players, now, this is the way we're going to play football. We're going to play out from the back, and we're going to build up. We're going to build up. Yeah, you're going to make mistakes, but do you know what? Just keep doing it. Simple as that, because eventually we'll bear the fruits of it.
And the thing for me is, which they do better than any other team, is it's succession planning.
Yeah.
And I think as fans, you look at Brighton, Robbo, and we don't kind of really question them hiring a 31-year-old, do we? Or do we?
No, and I think that's the way the game's going now. It's like you say, with Brighton, they give people chances, don't they? And they've done it with the managers. So the managers that have gone in there, especially after, obviously, Potter, we've never even heard of them. And they go in there and they do an even better job. But then they'll move on. Yep. They'll find another coach that they know, this is our foundations, this is the stability we have at the ground, and the facilities are unbelievable. And as a player, when you're going into them facilities and you're working on it day to day, breeds confidence, breeds positivity. So that young manager, I don't think of that. I just think of, he's going to be another top manager that's going to come in and take them to the next level again. Yeah, because he's just, again, it's like a conveyor belt with Brighton at the moment. They've just got a way. They just find a way of just producing not only good players, but good managers, good young managers.
Well-run business, isn't it?
Yeah, well-run business. And they do their business professionally, shall we say. They're probably one of the clubs that do it where they go and do their homework on people. So they're not going to go and bring a manager in where they're going to go, we want you to do this, we want you to do that. And he'll be like, I can't quite do that. They're actually going to do their homework on that manager, and they'll go, look, this is how we want you as the manager. We know what you're all about. So go and keep creating that environment that we've been creating for numerous years. And I just love it. I love seeing it. I love seeing what they're doing at that football club. Yeah, it's really good.
Brilliant. I tell you what, this has been a really interesting show, lads. And I just want to finish up. We've got the quiz coming up. Just want to have one of your old teams, both of your old teams, or two of. Blues and Wrexham this season.
Ooh, yes.
In the same league, we've got Tom Brady versus Reynolds and McElhenney. Fozzie, where do you think the Wrexham boys are going to finish this year?
Do you know what? I wasn't quite sure on Saturday how they do against Wycombe. I've watched the highlights and they look really, really good. Really
good.
Really, really good. They've signed some very good players for that league.
George Dobson, mate.
George Dobson, fantastic. They've signed some really, really good players for that level. And it wouldn't surprise me if they were up there come the end of the season. I think if they can finish playoffs or above, it's an incredible season, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did that.
You know what I like about it as well is they've got people like James McClellan, Stephen Fletcher.
Oh, good.
Like Stephen Fletcher will score 10, 15 goals coming off the bench.
Dan Scar, the centre-half, I know really
Proper
well.
players, mate, yeah.
Plymouth, he was in League One, so he knows the league.
Yeah.
He's got promoted from it. So again, they're signing players that understand the league and can get out of it. So yeah, I think they'll be up there, Wrexham.
And what about the Blues, Robbo?
Blues, I think, under the manager, Chris, obviously I'm hearing a lot of good things with how he wants the team to play. They've brought in, obviously, a lot of players. So again, it's getting them to gel. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
As soon as the players start gelling, they understand what the manager wants, then yeah, you can see them like motoring up. Obviously, the Reading game, first game of the season, was a little bit of a ball draw. Blues struggled a little bit. Reading caught them out a couple of times on the counter-attack and could have maybe scored more goals. But again, this is the football that Chris wants, and he wants the players. So it's adapting. It's adapting to that style and hopefully getting it right.
Yeah.
If Blues get off to a good start, they would probably steamroll that league because Blues as a club, I think whoever they play against when they travel away,
The fan base will win them that league.
mate, they'll get into the heads. They'll get into the heads of the opposition because it's big Birmingham City. And I think if they get off to a good start where they're winning sort of 4 or 5 of the first 6 or 7, whoever they're playing against on a Saturday afternoon goes, oh my gosh, we've got Birmingham today. It's big Birmingham.
And Mark, Wrexham, do you care? Where do you think they're?
I said a couple of years ago when they got promoted with Ben, I said they'll win the league before Spurs, and they're not actually that far away, are they now? They're getting closer. If they get promoted this year, they're one away. I think they'll be in the Prem by 2027.
Really?
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise either. That wouldn't surprise me either, to be fair.
How many years is that? So it's 24, 25.
24, 25.
26.
Has any club ever gone National League, League 2, League 1 Championship? Never, sure.
In a row?
No chance.
Luton did it quick, didn't they?
They missed a couple.
They missed a couple. Bournemouth did. How took them up?
Wimbledon might have done it years ago.
I'm not having it, lads. I don't think so. I think that is almost impossible.
There's been loads of back-to-backers. I think Fleetwood did back-to-backers.
Mate, to be fair, Ipswich just did League 1 to Championship to Premier League. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that is ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
It helps if you've got a couple of billionaires.
I'd probably say so. I'd say so. By the way, has anybody seen the new Deadpool film?
No, I've not.
Deadpool Wolverine. Lads, right, go and watch it. I watched it the other night, and I am not... I think I have got a very my intelligence, my comedy, my kind of wit is highbrow.
You like Mrs. Townsend.
It's highbrow. I've never watched an episode of that in my life, but honestly, I was chuckling so hard to myself, like shoulders going. It is hilarious.
You support your mate, aren't you?
Hilarious. 2 hours, right?
Still haven't done your podcast.
You know a good thing through films is when you're watching a
Rio.
film and you're thinking, oh, I hope it ends soon. Not once did I look at my watch. For the whole thing, I'm just thinking, this is incredible.
It must be good because your attention span is
minimal.
Fairly low, yeah.
Minimal. And I sat there for 2 hours and I enjoyed every second of it. What a film.
I think it's
Brilliant.
time for the quiz, mate.
Come on, quiz boy, let's go.
First quiz of the season. Who won last season?
Me.
Was there a charity bet?
No, I won.
What?
I definitely won last year.
You sure?
Yeah.
You did.
No, I won. It was 100% me.
So wasn't there a bet?
So it just like whatever Ben says, I back it.
Wasn't there a bet?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is there another bet?
Was there a bet? £100 charity bet or something?
I'll happily pay £100 charity bet for it. It's fine. It's not.
Who are you going for?
I'm going to give it to Cure Leukemia. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you, Ben. Right, question 1, new season. Can you name one of the 2 Premier League players who has jointly won the most Player of the Month awards?
Bruno Fernandes?
No.
Harry Kane.
Kevin De Bruyne.
Harry Kane. 7 alongside Sergio Aguero.
Oh, yeah.
1-0 Fozzie.
I was thinking current.
He's out the blocks. Question 2. Which manager has taken charge of the most Premier League
Alex Ferguson.
clubs?
Wenger.
Which manager has taken charge of the most Premier League clubs?
Allardyce.
No, you can't. You've already said Wenger. You're not allowed to say
I was going to
anything.
say Sam Allardyce.
1-1.
Yes.
Mark,
What are you
you've shit
doing?
the bed there, mate.
You know the rules of this game. 1-1 nil.
Oh, it's Paul.
His heart's not in it.
His heart's not in it.
He wants a transfer.
Just fun.
When you said clubs, see, they didn't wait for the club.
I
They went
paused
club.
because I knew he'd jumped the gun. Right, 1-1-0. Question 3. Which goalkeeper was in goal for Wimbledon when David Beckham
Dave Besson.
scored the
Neil Sullivan.
Oh,
Neil Sullivan.
way line goal in 96? Neil Sullivan.
Goalie
I went too early then.
And Sagers. Who did you say?
I said Dave Besson.
Yeah, Besson. Dave Besson. Crazy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2-1. No. Come on, Mark. Career path. I have played for Norwich, Coventry, Newcastle.
Huckabee.
No. Celtic loan, Blackburn,
Robbie Keane.
Liverpool,
No, what are
No.
you talking about?
I know.
West Ham, Man City, Cardiff loan, Liverpool, Cardiff.
You're going to have to say it all again.
Okay. Norwich, Coventry, Newcastle, Celtic loan, Blackburn, Liverpool, West Ham, Man City, Cardiff loan.
Chris Sutton.
No.
Bellamy.
Back in. Bellamy.
We're going to come back in and mark Craig Bellamy.
Yeah.
No, there's no we're coming back in.
Yeah, we are. He's the new
No,
man.
there's no we're coming back
This
in.
is a new season.
That doesn't
Pre-season.
work.
It's a new season.
Yeah.
No.
Pre-season.
You need to put the ground rules out before you start
Well,
the
they
quiz.
just
Then you
did.
can't just do it mid-quiz.
Okay, well, I've committed to it now. I've
You
committed to
didn't
it
know
now.
anyway. You've had your chance. Come
Better.
back
And
in.
I'm going to have to,
Better.
I'm gonna have to
That's
consult the
better,
regular
Tom.
quiz master.
Even
But I've
even Jamie's shaking his head.
I've committed. Of course he is.
Disbelief.
I've committed to it now. 2-1.
You've got
One.
to come back in.
Who's the only defender to win the Premier League Player of the Season award on 2 occasions?
Virgil van Dijk.
No.
John Terry.
No.
Oh, I know it. Idiot. Well, I think I know it. I might be back in.
We're allowed to back in for an answer, but it's not a free-for-all. You get another one.
Can you read the question,
No.
please?
Who is the only defender to win the Premier League Player of the Season award on 2 occasions?
Who did you say? Van Dijk. I said Terry. Yeah.
That one I would have said Rio Ferdinand.
Vinny
No.
Kompany.
No. That's your next one.
I'm going to go Vidic.
Well done.
Yes. I nearly went Paul McGrath because I knew he won it, but
What we saying? 2-2-1.
2-2.
This all back in ones and
That's great. The comments will love
Good.
it. Comments
Good, mate.
will love it.
You just went early again on Company.
Grace.
Comments are going to love
Are
it.
you ready? Need a quick reaction on this one, guys. Newcastle signed Lewis Hall from which club?
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Well done, Ben.
Lucky.
It's too quick. Because he's nearer to me, so I hear it first.
Right. 3-2-1.
2-1.
Question 7. What former Premier League club started the championship with a -2 point deduction this year? What former Premier League club started the championship with a 2 point deduction this year?
Never heard this. I don't know. Hull.
No. What former Premier League club started the championship season with a 2 point deduction this year?
So this year.
This season.
So they're starting this season.
This season.
Norwich.
No.
Are we all back in again?
Who will we?
No, I haven't said yet.
Robbo's not.
This season.
This season.
That's Sheffield United.
Well
Chef
done.
Wednesday.
Sheffield United.
Sheffield United did.
Yeah, yeah.
Never heard of it.
I've never heard that.
3-2-2.
3-3-2-2.
Okay. Question 8. Which football player scored the most points in the FPL last season?
Salah.
No.
You literally asked me this question earlier on, didn't you? No.
Was it Ollie Watkins?
No, it wasn't. Which football player scored the most points in the FPL last season?
I looked at this list the other day. Well, we've all looked at the bloody list.
It's going to be someone random. Got to be.
I know who it is.
Just off the cuff.
I know.
Are we all back in again?
I'm going to go
After Robbo?
De Bruyne.
Cole Palmer.
Cole Palmer.
Yes!
That's who I was going to say.
Mark, where's the intensity gone?
Goals towards
I thought that had to be a bit of a delay.
Nah, do you know what? See how I did that there? I waited. I acted like I weren't bothered. I was trying to have idle chit chat and stuff like that. But really, what I was doing, I was just waiting for the second his mouth finished moving. Boom, Cole
Do
Palmer.
you like the coming back in? Because
Yeah.
I think it...
I like it. I like it a lot.
So
Get in the
you
comments,
the
you
thing-
lot.
Jamie, this is like cuckold for him.
What's that, Mark?
That is when you watch your partner doing it with someone else, apparently. You can't bring new things into the bedroom that you don't do with Jamie.
Change.
He
No.
ain't like it.
Boggles it
I
dead.
think I'm going to get the Tic
He
Tac.
does not like change.
I think the boys.
I like it.
I like
I
it.
think James
Good.
should try it.
What nationality is Sven Botman?
Dutch.
Is he?
Yeah, he is Dutch, yeah.
What's the scores?
What's the scores?
4-3-2.
That's it, innit?
We've got one more question.
Question 10.
Oh, right.
Who is the only player to win the Premier League Golden Boot 3 times in a row?
Aguero.
No.
What?
Harry Kane.
No.
Get in there. Oh, we're all back in. We're all back in.
Who is the only player to win the Premier League Golden Boot 3 times in a row?
Golden Boot.
Yeah.
No, the silver one.
Come on, Robbo.
Who did I say?
I'm thinking of.
You said Aguero.
Aguero, didn't you?
Yeah.
Who did you say?
Holland.
No.
Thierry Henry.
Jeremy.
No. See, you're out. Premier League, for fuck's sake.
Alan Shearer.
No, you're out. It's my time.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Ben.
Alan Shearer.
Alan Shearer.
Yes! Come on.
Yeah, boring.
Come
3
on.
times in a row, he won it.
3 times.
Oh,
Go on, big Shearer.
So, on the
Could've got
chalkboard
that
for this
without me.
season,
That's a celebration.
that's a 1-0
Higher
for
than
Fozzie.
That.
Right, well done, you lot. Thank you. Appreciate that. We will see you on Monday. Premier League kicks off, everybody. We've missed it, haven't we?
Hey up, and Big Un's back.
And Big Un's back. Big Dave from Barnsley.
Dave.
See you all soon. Bye-bye. Bye.